Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. In honor of our Max Webb Emeritus Senior Rabbi, Rabbi David Wolpe, I thought today I'd just read you one of his sermons. But then I remembered that he actually never wrote them down, and it would take me a while to transcribe them. So then I decided that in honor of Rabbi Wolpe, I will start this sermon with a joke. The first Jewish president of the United States is elected. That wasn't the joke. The night before the inauguration, he calls his mother, Mom, I'd love for you to come visit and stay with me during the inauguration for a few days. Oh, I don't know. Airfare is so expensive these days. Mom, I'll fly you on Air Force One. Oh, but you know, the cab fare these days is just ridiculous. Mom, the presidential motorcade will drive you here. But accommodations, especially during the inaugurations, Mom, I'll put you in the Lincoln bedroom itself. She reluctantly agrees and flies out. She arrives at the inauguration. She finds her seat as her son gets up to take his oath. She turns to the woman in the seat next to her and she says, "You see that man? The one there in front of the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court? That man with his hand on the Torah. His brother's a doctor." Today I'd like to talk about the ways in which we choose to think, and ultimately the ways in which we choose to live. 20th century American novelist David Foster Wallace, in his Kenyon College commencement address titled, "This is Water," begins with the following story. There are two young fish swimming along, and they happen to meet an older fish swimming the other way, who nods at them and says, "Morning, boys. How's the water?" And the two young fish swim on for a bit, and then eventually one of them looks over at the other and goes, "What in the world is water?" David Foster Wallace suggests that like these fish, we human beings swim through life, often unaware of our surroundings, unconscious. It's not our fault, he says. We are hardwired from birth to see the world solely through the lens of self. Gives a great example. You're on the 405 and someone speeds by and cuts you off. It's never happened to anyone here. Anyone do that accidentally? You don't have to raise your hand. Most will react by cursing the driver of the other car. Some might honk or scream at them, even though they can't hear us. Or maybe even share a silent but direct sign of disapproval. David Foster Wallace asks, did it ever cross our mind that maybe, just maybe, the person who cut us off has a sick parent or a sick child in the car, that they are rushing to the hospital? In that moment of frustration, we are so focused on what this person did to us. We are blinded to other possibilities that may have nothing to do with us. He suggests that it is precisely in those moments, stuck in traffic, standing in the long lines in the grocery store, that we have an opportunity to cultivate awareness, compassionate mindset, to resist the automatic, self-centered mode of thinking and instead choose to perceive the world and its challenges with patience and with empathy. What would it look like to put ourselves in those moments in the shoes of the other? What would it look like to open our minds to a different point of view? Foster Wallace concludes his remarks with this message: the capital T truth of life has almost nothing to do with knowledge and everything to do with simple awareness. Awareness of what is so real and essential, so hidden in plain sight all around us all the time, that we have to keep reminding ourselves over and over, this is water. This is water. Stay conscious. While this commencement address was given in 2005, we know that this message was taught thousands of years ago when we received the Torah. After all, the rabbis see the Torah as Mayim Chaim, living waters. It has sustained us as individuals and as a people. For generations, the Torah has reminded us to stay conscious, to open our minds, to transcend our default settings, and to see the world through the eyes of the other, of each other. A perfect example, someone from our tradition who learns to open his mind to a multitude of possibilities, removing the self from the center, empathizing with those around him, is someone whose name literally means, or I have drawn you from the water. Himishitiu min hamayim, Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, our greatest of leaders. In the moments he first steps out of the palace, he could have easily walked by unconscious, blind to what was before him. After all, he's a prince. But he hears the cries, the Israelites. Vaya'ar b'sivlotam, he makes a choice. He empathizes with the oppressed. Moses sees a burning bush, and he opens his mind to the possibility that maybe there is a message for him to hear. As Moses leads the people through the desert, they complain over and over again. Yet Moses, most of the time, gives them the benefit of the doubt. Yes, there are times when Moses is impulsive and acts without thinking. He's human, after all. Yet he strives to make conscious, deliberate decisions, taking others into consideration. Finally, we get to the end of Moses' life. As the Torah teaches us this week, Moses stands with God on a mountain overlooking the promised land, and God says, "Look there is the land, but you will not enter. You will die right here, just as your brother." Rather than dwelling in self-pity, Moses, in that moment, thinks of his people, thinks of their need for leadership, and beseeches God to begin the transfer of power to his successor, Joshua. There's a reason why our sages teach that there was no other prophet like Moshe. He is called Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, our teacher, for a reason, not because he helped our people acquire knowledge, because he is a human being who strives to live a life of consciousness. This is what a life of Torah and mitzvot is all about. May our learning of Torah and our performance of mitzvot help us open our minds, enable us to remain conscious, to empathize with the other, to build a world of love, in a world of kindness for us, for our children, for our children's children. Shabbat Shalom.